Well, who are you?
Who am I? I'm Bouncer. There's a few people that know Randy Smith, and I have a birth certificate that says Randolph Smith, Randolph Wayne Smith, but I'm Bouncer. I I've done a wee bit of fishing. I started actually. I I started with the typical hot dog on the dock while the dad went out fishing with his buddies in Michigan. And for some reason, I don't know how it happened. I guess somebody pulled some chains or something. But when I was 7 years old, I caught a couple of rainbow trout, about 2 pounds apiece, and they got in the newspaper. And shortly after that, not shortly after, because that was in the summertime, but for Christmas, I got my first pair of double-bladed ice skates, and my sister got her first pair of fancy ice skates. She was a couple years older. And January 6th, we moved to Florida. So I don't want to say it was a sudden, but it was. But my dad got a real good business deal that brought us to Florida in 1956. In 1957, I rigged my own ballyhoo, double hook ballyhoo, and we were drifting off a haulover, and I caught a sailfish on my privately rigged ballyhoo with linen line, 27-pound test. It was 9 thread. Each thread was 3 pounds. I had 9 threads, so it was 27-pound test. It would stretch a mile, and we were fishing in a Chris Craft kit boat, which back in the day you could buy models of them and you could buy kits to build them, but you don't see many. But they were cuddy cabin boats with a small inboard gas engine in them. And if Oliver Inlet was running the wrong way, we couldn't get through the bridge. But they were good days, boy. You could troll across the north end of Biscayne Bay there between Keystone and the bridge, and you might catch 5 or 6 Spanish mackerel and a ribbon fish by the time you got across the bay. And we would go dolphin fishing quite often, and all we fished was Japanese feathers. They were a chrome head with a red eye and a handful of chicken feathers tied onto them. And we probably fished mostly 1-ounce trolling feathers, but we always fished
Japanese feathers?
Japanese trolling feathers. And we always fished a red and white and a green and yellow, 2 feathers out the back of the boat. And like I said, the boat only did 6 knots, so that was a good trolling speed. But the dolphin we caught with just that was unbelievable. And I guess it happens to everybody at some time in their life if the boat's the right arrangement. But the helmsman, the owner of the boat, was Jack Lentz. He worked with my dad. It's an automotive die designer. And he's driving along, with the spoke steering wheel and the whole 9 yards and the cuddy cabin. And for some reason, this 15-pound dolphin decides to swim alongside the boat. And Jack Lentz took his gaff and reached out and gaffed that free-swimming dolphin and swung it into the cockpit, jumping all over the place. And I was 7, 8 years old, and I jumped on the dolphin and got hit in the eye with his tail. But crazy how good fishing was back there. Japanese trolling feather, and you'd catch dolphin. If you went king fishing on a head boat, like out of Haulover, they fished with a 1-ounce jig, nylon jig, and they gave you a paper bucket of live shrimp. And you'd fish out 5 or 6 shrimp and catch kingfish on the shrimp and muttons and yellowtails and blue runners. And every time you ran out of shrimp, you go to the back of the boat and you get half a dozen shrimp and go back to your station and catch some more fish. But it was nothing for every kingfish to weigh 20 pounds.